today's event, the launching of Datatalk Asia, where we can elaborate more on democracy, open data, and data journalism in Southeast Asian elections. On behalf of the Indonesian Association for Media Development, or Perhimpunan Pengembangan Media Nusantara, PPMN, I would like to say thank you very much for joining us today. Datatalk.asia is a data portal on elections in Southeast Asia developed by PPMN with Association of Elections and Democracy, or Perludem, under the Asia Pacific Regional Support for Elections and Political Transition, or RESPECT program. The development of the portal is also fully supported by USAID. My name is Ratna Arianti, and I will be your host for this morning, Jakarta time, or in my place, evening time. I hope you will find this event informative and useful. I am sure our attendees are coming from various backgrounds, whether you are journalists, CSO activists, academicians, researchers, politicians, students, or anyone that have interest on election issues, democracy, open data, and data-driven journalism. I saw some of you already introduce yourself, coming from different places of the Asia. I think I saw someone from Nepal, and I see familiar names as well from the Philippines and also Thailand. I am glad to meet you all and knowing that everyone is well in these uncertain times. Please feel free to interact using the chat section. You can introduce yourself and start to have a virtual networking. As we know, PPMN has always been pushing for the use of open data among journalists and media workers, while also promoting to conduct more data journalism training. Using open data is a very useful approach for journalists covering a wide range of issues, including politics, helping them increasing the quality of journalism. This is especially essential for Indonesia, as we know the country has just finalized its regional elections in December 2020, in the middle of the pandemic. And not only Indonesia, but also several countries in Asia. We know that Myanmar also organized their elections in the same year during the pandemic. I would like to remind everyone that we provide simultaneously translation from English to Bahasa Indonesia. Our excellent translator, Mas Ogi, is more than happy to assist us this morning. Please reach us if you have any problem on the chat section. You can find the translation feature in the lower part of your screen. Now, I would like to give you the agenda for today. After this, we will have an opening remark from Ibu Joyce Damayanti, Chief of Party Respect. Then it will be followed by official launching of Datatalk.asia. After that, there will be remarks from Datatalk.asia partners. Then we will continue with public lecture. And last but not least, I will also announce the Excel Award and Data Journalism Training at the end of the event. Before I will turn the time over to Ibu Joyce Damayanti, Chief of Party Respect, I will read her short bio. Ibu Joyce has started her career when she joined the National Commission of Human Rights. She has been working in the various development projects for more than 20 years. She was appointed as Chief of Party Respect since 2019. So Ibu Joyce, without further ado, the virtual stage is yours.
Yes, thank you. Honorable guests, good day, and I welcome you all to this event of Data Portal on Election Violation launching. It is my great pleasure to address these speakers and audiences of Bawaslu, Bapak Fritz Edward, also USAID representatives, journalists, and non-government organization members from the Asia Pacific region. It is also a delight to be part of this event today to support launch what promises to be an informative and easily accessed platform that presents data, data visual, conversion features, as well as other features that can support journalistic content production, especially on electoral reporting. This Datatalk.asia, the name of the portal, has been designed to support journalists and civil society with election open data system available in the portal. The portal itself also planned to be developed in partnership with organizations in the Asia-Pacific region, specializing in the data management system and also have concern in sustainable democracy and election integrity. For this first stage, 3 independent organizations, PCIG, the Philippine Center for Investigative Journalism from the Philippines, Sinar Project from Malaysia, and Jaring from Indonesia, are in a collaboration to provide election-related dataset for the portal. These organizations have begun to build open data through aggregating and curating relevant data, and they've been working for ways to get the data to journalists and citizens. As most people would agree that working with sufficient data can help journalists to be forceful in their argumentation and increase the impact of their publications. Therefore, the portal strives to also provide credible, relevant, and salient data to the need of journalism. This data portal will also allow journalists to create tailored and compelling visualization of targeted messages for their articles. Through contributing to the accuracy of journalist stories, the portal hopefully will be able to increase the scientific literacy of society on election issues. Thank you to PPMN, or Perhimpunan Media Nusantara, for taking this initiative and has started to work on this since 2019. PPMN is main partner of Perludem, or Perkumpulan untuk Pemilu and Demokrasi, the Association for Elections and Democracy, who manage RESPEC. As Ratna mentioned before, RESPEC is the Asia-Pacific Regional Support for Elections and Political Transitions Program. This regional program supported by the USAID. RESPEC wants to be able to work beyond technical requirements and focuses on supporting and creating enabling environment for election integrity and political processes. Through Datatalk.asia, we hope can contribute to democracy and election integrity by facilitating the transformation of raw data on election violations into meaningful information constructed professionally by journalists. At the end of my opening remarks, I hope that you will enjoy your participation. Journalism and the work of civil society organizations have so much to offer all of us. I wish we will able to make the very best contribution as we can. Good luck for the event today, and thank you all. Mbak Atta, I give back the microphone to you.
Thank you so much for your opening remark, Ibu. So the main objective of developing the Datatalk.asia is to present data about the elections, including electoral violations completed by data visualization and data story. Data collected in this platform are obtained from several sources, including open sources from the government and also non-profit institutions. Now, we are entering the time, a very exciting moment for us, which gather us here today. It is my honor to present to everyone the innovative collaboration, Datatalk.asia.
Advances in technology through this sport journalists work to mine open data which benefit their reporting activities greatly. High initiative from government institutions, private sectors, and non-profit organizations to provide open data have also increased the use of open data massively. Simultaneously, journalists are yet to use open data maximally on their reporting activities despite their effort to use open data amid their fast-paced deadlines. Hence, the Indonesian Association for Media Development's PPMN continuously promoting the program to accelerate the use of open data into journalistic and media practices under data-driven journalism approach. The data-driven journalism can be used to cover various issues, leading to high-quality journalistic works, especially in issues of politics and democracy, such as covering the elections. Since 2018, under the Asia-Pacific Regional Support for Election and Political Transition, RESPAC, we work with Association of Election and Democracy, (Perludem), to develop new open data processing breakthroughs, namely the Datatalk.Asia portal. The creation and development of the portal is fully supported by USAID. Datatalk.Asia is a portal which collects open data that the journalists need to support their works in reporting. We primarily aim at helping journalists benefit from its dataset, which they can always modify to strengthen their journalistic works before they disseminate these works to the public. Furthermore, the Datatalk.Asia is also open to professionals beyond journalism, such as activists working in election issues, scholars, researchers, and other relevant parties. The main objective of developing the Datatalk.Asia is to present data about the elections, including electoral violations completed by data visualization. The dataset and its accompanying visualization are expected to serve as a primary source to guide the writing of analysis, opinion pieces, or news item regarding electoral violations. Data collected by the Datatalk.Asia are obtained from open sources provided by governments and non-profit institutions. Datatalk.Asia has expanded into an effort to facilitate electoral data transparency while helping journalists monitor electoral data and information transparency. Datatalk.Asia's main features come in three parts: dataset, visualization, and story. Here's how it's works. Step 1. Select a dataset you wish to know or learn about. You can select data based on the country, agreed upon topic, or data search. Datatalk.Asia also accommodates various data formats taken from various data sources with guaranteed validity. This page also features a raw data downloader menu, allowing journalists to independently process and elaborate on that raw dataset. Step 2. Viewing the visualization of a dataset you have selected. Visualization menu presents data mined from a dataset in visual or graphic formats. You can select the visual or graphic types based on your needs or adjust available ones according to the news or analysis writing you wish to conduct. There are two visualization types you can choose. First, the standard visualization, presented in a standardized format, allowing you to only look at the data or graphics without altering their contents. Second, dynamic visualization is data obtained from the dataset submitted by users who have logged into the system as members. Step 3. You can read or write articles related to their datasets and their visualizations. The third feature is called story. The feature presents information in narrative format or journalistic reports strengthened by available data, supplemented by visualization. Datatalk.Asia has been designed with three advantages. First, can be accessed openly and easy to use. Second, integrates various data about the election in several Asian countries. Currently, 3 Asian countries, namely Indonesia, Malaysia, and the Philippines, contribute dataset to the portal through collaboration with Sinar Project in Malaysia and PCIG in the Philippines. Third, all data collected in the platform will be stored in a long time in an easy-to-use format. It's quite easy to use the portal. New users have to register as members by filling out a registration form available on the Datatalk.Asia interface. Upon having filled the entire data form, user will receive an email notification indicating you can already access and use the data available in the platform. We hope the Datatalk.Asia can support the performance of journalists living in Southeast Asia, so they can supplement their reporting activities to produce high-quality journalistic works. We will also invite our institutional partners working in media organizations or civil society organization in Asia Pacific to join us by collaborating in this portal in their respective countries. Through the platform, we can work together in supplying data to strengthen data-driven journalism.
Yeah, so congratulations for all partners in this project as we already officially launched the website. And I would like to invite everyone to visit the website. We do hope we will see more and more articles or projects will be published using the collection of dataset in Datatalk.asia. For now, three institutions already work to input datasets and manage the Datatalk.asia. They are Indonesia Network for Investigative Journalism, or JARING, from Indonesia. And then the second one is Philippine Center for Investigative Journalism, PCIJ, from Philippines, and Sinar Project from Malaysia. But in the future, we hope there will be more institutions from various countries in Southeast Asia or Asia Pacific are involved in managing Datatalk.asia. Speaking about partners, we are very privileged to have all these representatives joining us today. First, I would like to invite Mr. Fritz Edward Siregar, Commissioner of the Election Supervisory Body, Law Division, or we call it in Bahasa Indonesia, Bawaslu, to give his remark. Mr. Fritz started his career as a special staff at the Secretary of the Central of Election Supervisory in 1999, and also involved to monitor election in 2004. After finishing his master degree in law in the Netherlands, he joined with International Foundation for Election System as a rule of law project officer. He is one of the first experts in Indonesia who focusing in election disputes. So Bapak Fritz, the floor is yours.
Ya, terima kasih Mbak Rana. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and good morning for everyone. Thank you for our foreign partner and also for local partner and also USA and also Perludem and particularly for PPM, Perhimpunan Pengembangan Media Nusantara, and also the USA and the Philippine Center for Investigative Journalism, Sinar Project, and also all the participants that came for this morning. For us, we are from the Bawaslu, Election Supervisory Board from Indonesia. We are strongly support this program since the beginning. So as Election Supervisory Board, we have the objective to do our supervisions, to do the investigation, election process, election dispute, criminal charges, and we have to realize that I think we are here for the same reasons, because we want to support the democracy with all costs, and in order to support that, we need to support one and another. And one of support that we can do from the Bawaslu is to provide data. Is mostly that data that is from the Datatalk is also the one that we already compile. What we have to understand that we also should make that available, so journalism can understand the process, what we do in Indonesia with regards to support the election and also the democracy. The path may be not as easy as what we thought. We still have a roadblock maybe somehow in the future, but I think we can learn about that process. How, yes, we make an election, we have the elections, but to support the electoral justice, to support, to bring the understanding about how the difficulties in one country and to another country, so we can support one and another. And we, as the Bawaslu, strongly support this program. So not only so we can share what we do in Indonesia, but also to strengthen our foreign partner in Malaysia and the Philippines and maybe other countries, that you're not alone when we have to support this process. I think this is my remarks, Mbak Rana. And again, thank you everybody. Thank you for pursuing this dream and for the hard working that you already started. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Bapak Fritz. I know you are very busy, so thank you so much for joining with us this morning. So next, we will hear a remark from Miss Francisca Ria Susanti, or usually I call her Mbak Santi. Mbak is like when you respect someone who is a senior than you will say Mbak in bahasa. So Mbak Santi, she is the Deputy Director Program for PPMN, who also act as Editor-in-Chief for Jaring. Mbak Santi is a senior journalist and developed her career in Sinar Harapan for more than 10 years. She also has published several books which highlighting human rights issues. In her spare time, she loves doing gardening. I think everybody loves doing gardening nowadays, yeah? Yeah. Okay, Mbak Santi. Please welcome Mbak Santi. Over to you, Mbak Santi.
Okay, thank you, Mbak Atta. And good morning, everyone. Selamat pagi. Magandang umaga. Representing the Indonesian Association for Media Development and the Indonesian Network for Investigative Journalism, or Jaring, it is a pleasure to have you all in here to launch this Datatalk.Asia portal. The process of this portal development has started 2 years ago. We began to have extensive discussion with our regional partner, especially the Philippine Center for Investigative Journalism, or PCIJ. We visited them in Manila, and also we worked together with the Association of Election and Democracy, or Perludem, as our lead partner, and also with a group of Indonesian journalists. We managed to spot the challenges in this matter. First of all, is to understand what is situation and needs of journalists who works with data in Southeast Asia. The second is the difference level of the freedom, information, and availability of open data in each countries. We continue to develop this portal despite of these challenges because we believe in journalism, which is in-depth based with data analysis and with perspective of fairness, independent, and non-biased in election reporting, will help the people to make their decision and to promote democracy. As we all know that in the era of information disruption, hoaxes and disinformation grows so quickly among us. When a lie is believed as a truth because it's told 1,000 times, then journalism based on data analysis and conveying verified facts becomes very important more than ever. So this portal is developed to help the journalists by providing election data to strengthen their reporting and to share and learn with the contact and network of Southeast Asian region, to finally strengthening their capacity in producing reports of quality journalism on election. So thank you to our partners, which were from the beginning have believed in our goal and mission and supporting us until today. Perludem and Bawaslu from Indonesia, PCIJ from the Philippines, and Sinar Project from Malaysia. Together, we have made a small contribution in promoting the openness of regional election data and the quality access of information about election for the public. This effort should be continuously widening and escalating. Collaboration between regional partners need to be strengthened and supported other activities, such as data journalism training and producing more data-driven stories about election using this data platform. So to encourage more journalists in Southeast Asia use this data platform, start from this year, we will add the data-driven journalism category in the Excel Award. As we know, since 2019, PPMN under Respect Program give award for the best journalistic works on election, and we hope we can to continue this award competition every 2 years. Thank you to Respect Program and USAID for their never-ending support all this time, and to make us to have the opportunities to continue this work in this future ahead. On behalf of PPMN and Jaring, as one the partners, and initiator of Datatalk.Asia portal. I congratulate to all of us for this launch and to all distinguished guests who joined this event. I hope you will enjoy this event. Thank you. Terima kasih. Selamat.
Okay, thank you, Mbak Santi. Excellent, yeah. Speaking in 3 languages. I forgot to mention to learn how to say thank you and how to say good morning in Philippines. I can learn from Carmela after this. So joining from us from the Philippines, I know her for a very long time. I mean, like from far, because she's a very inspiring journalist. Miss Carmela von Buena. She is Executive Director of PCIJ. She has her role as an Executive Director of PCIJ in 1st January 2021. So this year, yeah? She is co-author this year. I know the previous directors, so I know that you will be also doing excellent job for Philippine community journalism in the Philippines. She is co-author of 4 books on Philippine elections and government contracting, and has just launched her latest book, Marawi Siege: Stories from the Front Lines. In 2007, she won the first prize in Jaime Ong Pen Awards for Excellence in Journalism. Carmela has also produced documentaries and video essays and worked for Rappler as a senior reporter from 2011 to 2018. So over to you, Carmela.
Good morning. I'm Carmela von Buena. I am the Executive Director of the Philippine Center for Journalism, or PCIJ. We are a very proud partner of Datatalk Asia. The objective of this project aligns with the objective of PCIJ, which is to tap the power of data to inform Philippine voters so they can make the best decisions when they cast their votes. This is also a very timely project for us because the Philippines is preparing for the 2022 presidential elections, and that's only 16 months away from now. So Filipino voters will again troop to the polls to choose the successor of President Rodrigo Duterte. The Philippines has about 108 million population. Out of this, we have 61.8 million registered voters in the country and an additional 1.8 million voters overseas. These are the overseas Filipino workers. We are taking seriously our role in the coming elections to empower the Filipino voters with accurate information they will need to make their decisions. In the age of disinformation and misinformation, as we've been talking about, data is our best weapon against the lies peddled by propagandists, and we expect them really to do their best in 2022. So we will fight them with data. There's a document in the Philippines called Statement of Assets, Liabilities, and Net Worth, or SALN. And it's a document that has been synonymous with PCIJ, really, because PCIJ has used this document a lot to check the wealth of government officials. We will continue to expose candidates with unexplained wealth. We will also use historical campaign expenditures reports to expose candidates with links to vested interests. During elections, candidates are also prone to violations. And one big problem in the Philippines really is overspending. The Philippines has a law limiting campaign spending, and there is a really good reason for this. We've seen very clearly the connection between advertising expenditures and the performance in the polls. This is especially obvious in the senatorial elections, where recall, unfortunately, is the name of the game. The candidates with the most memorable campaign jingles are usually the candidates that voters remember in the polling precincts. So we will need to monitor campaign spending, and then we will need to press the Commission on Elections to really monitor the spending. We will also need to press the Commission on Elections to find a way to monitor spending online, because this is really big for our elections. And while we know this is a really difficult thing to do, we need to find a way and press the Commission on Elections to do this. So PCIJ has uploaded initial data to the portal. So I hope that you check them out. We are also sharing the portal to reporters in the Philippines. PCIJ actually is already conducting some training on data journalism for reporters in the Philippines, and there's a lot of enthusiasm among the reporters about data journalism, and they want to learn more about visualizing the data that they have. The portal will really be helpful to them, especially because sometimes even the most basic data are not easily accessible. So the portal will make it accessible to them. And then, as mentioned earlier, the portal will also help us learn from each other. We can learn from Indonesia, we can learn from Malaysia. I think we can compare notes, what types of data are available in Indonesia and Malaysia that are not available in the Philippines. Perhaps we can use this to press government for more transparency. And I guess in closing, we just want to say that in a highly networked world, there's really a lot we can learn from each other, and there's a lot we can do to help each other. So we're really happy to be part of this project. Thank you for getting us involved. Good morning.
Excellent. Thank you, Carmela. So joining us this morning also from Kuala Lumpur, from Malaysia. When we talk about open data, transparency, we must to include this man who will speak after this. Yeah, Hairil Yusuf. He helped us a lot in Indonesia doing the hackathon and different things on data journalism. So he is a coordinator of Sinar project from Malaysia. He has a broad experience in managing, developing, and implementing innovative development programs for government, international organizations, and also civil society that directly or indirectly involve digital technologies with limited resources in politically or technically constrained environments. Current area of interest of him is applying innovative methods of open data and standards for transparency and anti-corruption. So, Hairil, virtual stage is yours.
Thank you. Good morning and selamat pagi, everyone. Yeah, I see a lot of familiar faces with PPMN. I think we've worked together in lots of different ways. Yeah, so thank you again for this opportunity. I think it was well-timed in terms of getting the data. Other colleagues here have already shared the importance of elections in our region. So to share, I think I'm going to paraphrase a common saying. Never trust politicians, always check the budget. So in the same way, whenever a politician says something, always check the data if you really want to know about whether what they're saying is true or not. So in Malaysia for elections, what we've found out in past elections has always been that there's never enough information about who our candidates are and who were actually elected. In fact, out of 2/3 out of our MPs, so that makes, so out of the 222 MPs or parliamentarians that we have that are elected, we only know in detail probably about 40 to 50% of them. The rest, we don't even know their CVs, for example, or even what jobs they used to hold. That's the level of transparency in Malaysia. In addition to this, when there are elections, we're only given a period of about 2 weeks from nomination to the election itself, giving very little time for journalists to actually write stories and give informed information for citizens to elect. So what we focus, thanks to PPMN, is let's try to get some of these basic data out so that journalists can answer basic questions. Are youth represented? Are women represented? What's the candidate? Are different ethnicity represented? So basic data such as this is often missing in the results. And thanks to PPMN, we've actually put the first, for the first time ever, we've consolidated different data sets on details on parties, the gender aspect as well. But we're still missing a lot of basic data in Malaysia, such as even the age of our candidates. So we can't even say right now yet, and we hope to keep working on this. And finally, to wrap it up, is that these data sets are also, again, important for anti-corruption, as our colleagues at PRC have also shared. They are not just for the elections itself, but also after the elections, because every one of these candidates, we consider them actually politically exposed persons. And they are, the data sets that we have for the elections are invaluable for a lot of other research as well, in terms of contracts and political financing and so on. So we hope that, this is the start, and with additional data that we add, that we'll be able to write more interesting stories, and as well as get the Malaysian citizens to get better insights and be more informed voters in the coming elections. So, thank you.
Thank you so much, Khairil. So if I am be able to highlight several messages from the partners. So collaboration is very essential so that we can help each other across the borders. Check the website out. So after this, check datatalk.asia, finding a data set, because this is only the start. More data sets will come. And the most important one is never trust politicians. Check the data. So once again, thank you so much for all Datatalk.asia's partners for your hard work in this collaboration. That brings us to our public lecture as the next agenda. Before I hand over to our excellent moderator, Mr. Wahyu Diatmika, I would like to briefly introduce you to him. I think when PPMN reached me, one of the challenges is try to make it short of the CV from all these excellent guests and speakers, including Mr. Wahyu. So Wahyu is the editor-in-chief of Tempo.co, based in Jakarta, Indonesia. In 2015, he led the Panama Papers reporting in Indonesia, the collaborative cross-border investigative project. He's also involved in several collaboration projects in Indonesia, such as Indonesia Leaks and Check Fakta. So the second one is like a collaboration for fact-checking misinformation and disinformation. Currently, he is also the Secretary General of Indonesia Cyber Media Association, or AMSI. I don't know how does he manage his schedule, because he's basically everywhere. A newly formed organization for digital media in Indonesia. He was a 2014-2015 Nieman Fellow at Harvard University. So Mas Wahyu, or I used to call him Mas Komang, the stage is yours. Thank you.
Thank you, Ratna. Selamat pagi. Good morning to all of you, participants and distinguished panelists, for this very important event. It is my honor to moderate the session. In the next 2 hours, we have two very great speakers that will guide us through the topic of today's event: democracy, open data, and data journalism. The trends of democracy in Asia, particularly in Indonesia, in relation to open data, will be spoken brief to us by Ibu Koirunisa Nur Agustiati, the Executive Director of Perludem, or the Association for Democracy and Election in Indonesia. And then we will have Mr. Sir Kuang Keng, my friend King, from Malaysia, the founder and lead trainer of DataN. I'll briefly introduce them to you, but before that, let me just emphasize the importance of today's topic. I guess all of the previous speakers have explained the relation between democracy, open data, and data-driven journalism. And this event and the launch of Datatalk.asia cannot come in a better time. In many parts of Asia, we have seen pushback to democracy and human rights. We have challenges ahead of us. And one of the ways to overcome this challenge is to increase transparency. We need to open the data that relates to public interest. And one of the most important data is to make sure our election is open. our data on election is open. And this is exactly what PPMN, PCIJ, and CNR project wants to achieve by launching this website, this data portal. We will see, of course, in the next few months, hopefully not too long, stories emerging from this initiative. And when that happens, and when people, public in general, start reading those stories, viewing those stories, and we start seeing the impact of the stories about democracy, about how we preserve the integrity of election, then we will remember this day. Then we will remember how today, together with this collaboration, this wonderful collaboration among partners and colleagues in Asia, we launched this initiative. Just a reminder of how important today is, and I'm sure you all agree and support this. That's why you all are here. So the next 2 hours, we will divide it into 2 parts. The first part, 1 hour, will be for Mbak Ninis from Perludem. She will explain the trends of democracy and election and open data in Indonesia and hopefully in larger context in Asia. We'll have her for half an hour, and then we have Q&A for half an hour. The second part will be delivered by King, and he will talk mostly about data-driven journalism and how we can optimize open data in this particular portal for that objective that we just discussed. Ibu Koirunisa Nuragustiati, or Mbak Ninis, is raised and born in Palembang in South Sumatra. She finished her degree, bachelor degree and master degree in University of Indonesia, Faculty of Social and Political Science, and also master degree in political science. She has spent her career all related to elections, starting from CETRO, Center for Electoral Reform, in 2010, and now is the executive director of Perludem, the Association for Election and Democracy, one of the most consistent and credible CSO, civil society organization that deals with election and democracy issues in Indonesia. After half an hour of speaking, hopefully we have some questions from the audience. You can raise your hand if you want to ask your question directly. I'll give that chance for 3 attendees to ask questions, or you can just type your questions on the Q&A box, and I will summarize the question and ask your question to Mbak Ninis. So I think that's a short introduction for the next 1 hour. Over to you, Mbak Ninis.
Okay, thank you, Mas Wahyu. Good morning, Jakarta time, and good day, everyone, whenever you are joining this discussion. Actually, for me, it's like a reunion because I see so many familiar faces. So I hope when this pandemic is over, we can meet directly. So my name is Hoirunisa Nuragustiati. I am work in Perludem. Today, I'm going to talk about democracy in open data in election. I hope my screen is already seen. Okay. So when we talk about, first of all, I would like to congratulate PPMN for the launching of Datatalk.Asia. I hope this portal data can be benefit for public at large, especially for journalists in providing non-biased news. So talking about democracy and open data in election, actually this initiative, if you talk about Indonesia, it is started, if I'm not mistaken, in 2013 when we are facing 2014 election. So when we talk about the open election data, the concept is that the data should be freely to be accessed, used, and shared. So that the data can be benefit for the civil society, journalists, electoral observers, and public at large. So in doing so, open data allows all interested stakeholders to follow and understand the electoral process and can enable more inclusive, transparent, and trusted election. So the data can be used in many different ways, feeding for news website, developing voter information application, and in-depth data analysis and investigations are only some of the new opportunities. And when we are talking about the open data principle, I quote it from Peter Wolf from the International Idea, that open data has principles that should be applicable. The first is timely. So the data can be made available as quick as necessary to be useful. And then granular, available at the finest possible level or granularity or detail, and also made available at the primary level, for example, the level at which the source of data is collected. So when we talk about the election result, for example, so we can get the data from the polling station. So the data is also available in the polling station. And the third is available for free on the internet, released without any monetary restrictions, and then complete in a bulk, released as a complete data set without any omission, and then analyzable, the data should be machine readable so that it can be quickly and easily analyzed, and then non-proprietary, available in a format over which no entity has exclusive control, and then non-discriminatory, available to any individual or institution for anonymous access without any usage restrictions, including application or registration requirement. And then license-free, there should be no barriers for reuse and redistribution for any purpose, and then permanently available. So the data can be accessed via stable internet location for an indefinite period of time, especially data that is only available for a short period of time is not open. So this is the open data principles. And these principles actually can be applicable for all election stages. So when we talk about the election stages, from boundary delimitations until the electoral security. The boundary limitation, for example, so the data can give information about the population data as well the spatial data for electoral district derived from population data. For campaign finance, for example, we can get information about the funds of the parties and candidates receive and spend for the campaign, including limits and regulations. From the election result, we can get the number of registrants, valid and invalid vote, as well as votes for each party and candidate, and all data it should be available disaggregated down to the lowest level at which voters are counted. So these all election stages, actually we can apply for open data. So when we have specific interesting in these electoral stages, we can develop something about these electoral stages. When we talk about Indonesia experience, it is why open data is important, because the open election data can make election data and information more accessible. Before 2014, if I'm not mistaken, election data in Indonesia still in the, for example, in PDF format or JPEG format. So when we want to develop kind of tools, it is very hard for us because we have to reformat by ourselves to create something, for example, for voter education and something like that. And then the important is also to building trust through transparent and accountable election, and also fostering innovation and public participation. When the electoral management body are open with their data, and then the participation can be increased, and also it can be, the public can monitor the election by themselves. We have experience in presidential election in 2014 and 2019. In Indonesia, we have, if you know, Kawal Pemilu, for example. Kawal Pemilu is initiative from the civil society. It's like a crowdsourcing website. So people voluntarily give information about the election result in the polling station, and then they count the election result, and we can compare to the data from the election management body. So when the data from KPU, there is a mistake in data in KPU, we can directly report to them that the data is different. So it also can increase public participation. The open data also important in Indonesia context, because when we talk about the use of internet in Indonesia, Indonesia is one of the country that have a high internet penetration in Indonesia. About 64%. I took the data from the We Are Social Hootsuite, and Indonesia election is also a very complex one, because when we talk about legislative election, we have 12 political parties, and then we have so many candidates, and it is sometimes it is difficult for the voters to know the background of the candidate, to know the background of the political parties. So we need something, we need tools for voter information, voter education that can be accessed easily. Maybe not all of Indonesian voters are familiar with the KPU, with the electoral management body, with the KPU website, for example, to see the CV of the candidate. So when the EMBs are open with the data and it is machine readable, so we can make, for example, application in our smartphone, so we can check easily who is the candidate, where is our electoral district, and something like that. So it can be also easy way to make voter education or voter information if we already apply open data. And then if we see also the social media advertising audience, most of the user are the young voters, and it is also the number of the young voters in Indonesia also around 30%. So we hope that the young voter, the youth, is not only become only see the election, but they have to be involved in the election process.
Pemilu, tapi mereka juga terlibat dalam pemilu secara langsung. Jadi di Perludem pada tahun 2013 dan 2014 kami membuat sebuah program bekerja sama dengan pihak yang luar biasa, salah satunya KPU, karena komisioner KPU
to make the election is can be more easily access to the public. So we are developing API Pemilu. So API Pemilu is an open data platform which provide a database of election information carefully verified, aggregated, and coded in developer-friendly way, which streamlines the elections process. So we get data. Our data is from KPU data, because we want to have data which is verified. So we get the data from the KPU data. And after we get the data, we reformat the data into the API format. So when it is already in API format, the developer can can be creative in developing election voter education tools. In API Pemilu, we develop, for example, information about candidate that can be accessed through our smartphones, or we can make an electoral game, so it can be fun if we talk about the
Jadi kami juga bisa membuatnya sebagai permainan agar bisa menyenangkan buat pengguna. Jadi bukan hanya terkait dengan persaingan politik, tapi kami juga berusaha untuk bekerja dengan pengembang yang mungkin tidak pernah terkait dengan proses dari pemilihan itu sendiri. Dan ini semua bisa diakses lewat smartphone. Nah, kami dengan developer itu bekerja sama untuk bicara tentang apa sih format yang paling cocok untuk bisa diakses oleh pengguna. Dan pada 2019, kami juga mengembangkan sebuah website yang disebut Pintar Memilih. Jadi ini adalah titik acuan yang berisi banyak sekali informasi terkait dengan pemilu, mulai yang terutama memudahkan para calon untuk bisa menunjukkan profil mereka. Jadi ini berfungsi untuk pemilihan presiden, legislatif daerah. Jadi banyak sekali calon dari banyak sekali partai politik dan pemilu bisa belajar tentang latar belakang orang-orang ini, apa visi misi yang mereka kawal, dan lain sebagainya. Jadi para pemilih juga bisa menentukan untuk bisa menjadi pemilih yang cerdas melalui informasi yang disajikan oleh website ini. Dan tentu saja ada tantangan dalam pengembangan data terbuka. Yang pertama, dasar hukum yang lemah. Tidak dijamin dalam hukum kami. Kadang-kadang kalau tidak dinyatakan dalam hukum, jadi negara tidak merasa bahwa mereka berwajib untuk menyediakan data terbuka karena tidak diwajibkan oleh hukum. Dan yang kedua adalah terlalu bergantung pada komitmen dari penyelenggara pemilu. Nah, dari KPU, ketika komisionernya sudah turun jabatan dan digantikan oleh orang lain, kadang-kadang hal-hal yang diutamakan oleh komisioner baru itu berbeda dengan yang diutamakan oleh komisioner sebelumnya. Jadi, kami harus mulai lagi dari awal menjelaskan apa itu data terbuka dan kenapa penting. Lalu yang ketiga adalah kesulitan teknis. Karena butuh ahli IT untuk bisa mengembangkan data terbuka. Jadi, yang orang-orang komisioner ini juga seringkali tidak memiliki spesialis data untuk bisa mengembangkan aplikasi semacam ini. Jadi, ini menjadi tantangan kita.
Political parties or candidate resistance, because when we are willing to open the data, sometimes the political party or candidate are not willing to share their data to the candidate. They don't want their data to be published publicly. The voters cannot get the information about the political party or the candidate. So these are the challenges that still facing in Indonesia election. But we are still promoting the open data because like we have discussed earlier in the beginning that it is important to have an open data in election because it can benefit a public at large, electoral observers, journalists, to develop to be the oversight of the election, so it can be we can promote the transparent election. I stop here, Mas Wahyu, so we can continue in question and answer. Thank you.
Thank you. Terima kasih, Mbak Ninis. It was a very extensive presentation on the state of open data and election and the importance of it. We have several questions on the chat, but also on the Q&A. We have Pak Hadar Gumai. Pak Hadar Gumai, I think Indonesian will be familiar with Pak Hadar. Pak Hadar is one of former commissioner of our election commission and also an activist for democracy and credible election. As a journalist, I remember interviewing Pak Hadar a couple of times. So basically, Pak Hadar is asking about the challenges in getting the data. Because I think Mbak Ninis in her last slide explained the challenges, weak legal foundation, resistance from political parties and election participants.
Politik dan juga calon-calon dari pemilu. Bagaimana di tengah tantangan itu bagaimana kita bisa mengatasinya untuk bisa tetap meyakinkan KPU untuk membuka.
And I believe Pak Hadar also plays an important role in that because it was when he was one of the election commission. But importantly, one of Pak Hadar point was how is it in other countries? So I will invite Mas Yusuf, Mas Hairil Yusuf, and if I'm allowed, also our colleague from PCIJ, if they're still around, to also answer that question. Mbak Ninis?
Okay, yeah, maybe Pak Hadar, maybe Pak Hadar need access to talk, so maybe the host can give Pak Hadar access to talk because, yeah, when we are promoting the open data, it was when Pak Hadar became the commissioner in the KPU. We start with we do like introduction what is important of open data, and then we do like a training for the KPU staff, so they can have the same perspective about the importance of open data. And fortunately, because it has a good impact in the 2014 election, and then it is followed by the regional KPU. For example, in Banten or in Surabaya, they also have initiative, the same initiative like what we do in the national level. So it is also important not only to advocating the importance of open data, but we also do like training, because it is also our responsibility not only to advocating but also to do some training. We create a module for the KPU staff, so they can have they have the same perspective, and then they can develop by themselves. That's what we do, Mas Wahyu. And about the other countries, I guess if I'm not mistaken, I don't know the exact country who has the election data that stated in the law, but at least 75 countries in the world have a commitment in open partnership, open government partnership. There is a partnership, if I'm not mistaken, in Indonesia was initiated by President Yudhoyono. We have a commitment of open government, so not only on the election area, but also other part of government, for example, that the other ministry or the other department also are push to promote their open data. Yes, open data. That's Mas Wahyu.
Thank you, Ninis. Mas Khairil, can you also respond, please?
Yep. So in Malaysia, we don't have a law that says it must be open data, but we do have a guideline by an agency, Mampu, which is similar to Bappenas in Indonesia. So as a result, the data is published on the public elections website, but it's just the results. On election week itself, or during the election time, they do not publish all the nominations as open data. However, the web developers of the official website did have a hidden link of the JSON data of the nominations, which IT developers could actually use. So it was not officially announced, but it was still there. The biggest challenge in Malaysia on the data is that it's very limited in the terms that it just provides the name of the candidate and the result, like the total votes. So it's enough for maybe election integrity at the level of, did the votes match, or were the total votes matching the total ballot numbers, for example, but provides very other limited data, as I shared earlier, on anything else: gender, youth, even the coalition parties in Malaysia. They often run under an umbrella coalition logo, so you do not even know the details of the actual party that is running under that logo sometimes. So the data that we published on Datatalk.Asia, the first set, that actually includes some of these details. But again, we need The challenge here is that we need a good standard, and I think Pemilu also raised it on exactly what's the minimum set that the Electoral Commission should publish, like when they're doing election results or nominations.
Yeah. Thank you, Khairil. So basically what Indonesia achieved, as Mbak Ninis explained, is the culmination of intensive engagement between civil society organization and election commission, and I guess the same also apply in Malaysia and the Philippines. We cannot just expect those data to be public. It needs to be the governments, the public data holders need to be convinced about the importance of opening the data. I have Ms. Carol Ilagan from PCIJ, the Philippine Center for Investigative Journalism. Also in the panelists, Carol, could you please also respond to the questions on the legal foundation for open data in Philippine selection?
Okay, good afternoon. Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Wayu. I guess we are kind of all on the same boat. In the case for the Philippines, primarily because we also don't have an FOI law. So we have a lot of difficulties in terms of accessing information in general. So when we talk about accessing open data, that is something that we are struggling with. Although in the last decade, there have been a lot of efforts, both on the part of government and also civil society and non-government organizations also, to push for the availability of open data. In fact, for instance, this was during the Aquino administration. There was an effort to, there was a website put out called open.gov.ph. This website collected all sorts of open data from different government agencies. So it was helpful in a way because data is available online. But one criticism at that time is that it was more supply driven than demand driven. So they put out data online, but we aren't sure whether, how helpful these data are. So again, it's more supply than demand driven. But apart from that, but of course, after the Aquino administration, this initiative wasn't supported in the current administration. But as I mentioned earlier, there are also efforts done by a lot of other organizations here in the Philippines focusing on, let's say, procurement data or data on government contracting. So there are several headways. So we are, on the part of reporters, there are ways for us to get data. But again, if we're talking of all government agencies or how easily accessible this data are, that's not necessarily the case. So again, by law, we're having difficulties there. But as mentioned, there are initiatives being done by different organizations.
Thank you, Carol. There's another question from Mbak Ratih Listiana Chandra. She asked, why is it so difficult to get access to data related to election? Websites tend to just publish reports about their programs and activities, but not the important ones. Ninis, can you also maybe just give an example of the difficulties and how Perludem overcome those challenges?
Yeah, it is true, Mbak Ratih. It is very hard to get the data, especially data in the local level. In the national level, maybe we can ask the commissioner commitment because they are already promoting open data since 2014. But in the local level, it is very hard. And even though the data is available, the format is not, it's not in the open data format. For example, in the PDF format or in the JPEG format. So if we want to do like analysis about the data, we have to reformat by ourselves. So yeah, it is still complicated. Yeah, like I said before, it depends on the commitment of the commissioner, because sometimes the commissioner don't take it as the priority of their job. They just see that their job is holding an election, but not providing the data about the election. That is still the challenge for us. So like I said before, what we do is we do like do the training and then give them the module. We did it in the 2014, but now when the commissioner is replaced by a new one, sometimes we have to start from the beginning to introduce the concept of open data. And sometimes we have to ask privately to the commissioner whether we can get the data or not, because when we talk about the website of the KPU in the local level, not only KPU, but also the Bawaslu, the oversight body in local level, sometimes the website also is not updated. So we cannot see where we can find the data then. So we have to ask privately to the commissioner. Yeah, there is still challenges for us. Yeah, so yeah, because like I said, it is not stated in the law. It is not stated in the KPU regulation. So it's hard to have the commitment from the commissioner to provide the open data.
Thank you, Denise. I saw Carmela has just entered the virtual room. Do you want to add something about the legal context in getting data, open data in Philippines?
Yeah, Carol mentioned this, we do have the Freedom of Information Act, and there's been some progress there. If you have good relationship with government officials, I guess there's a culture that we need to improve really, and a lot of us reporters have often relied on contacts to get the data. So I think it's institutional. A lot of government offices hesitate to share the data sometimes. And I don't know if Carol discussed this earlier. I've talked about SALN, for example, and it's a very important document in the Philippines. But we've seen that it's becoming more difficult to get the data because they've been citing privacy of the government officials. So I think it's very ironic that we've removed a Chief Justice because of misdeclarations in the Statement of Assets, Liabilities, and Net Worth. We've impeached the former President Estrada because of unexplained wealth also. So that's something that we continue to struggle with. So there are documents that continue to be so hard to get when they should be very accessible.
Thank you, Carmela. I think that also relate to my next question, because Carol mentioned supply and demand. Sometimes supply fits to the demand. So I wonder if Perludem has some insights and experience to share about how to create this demand among public members of the public. How do you getting the data is one thing, but putting it online is another thing. But how do you convince people or inform people to use it and to utilize it for making sure the election is fair and free and credible? Do you have any insights on that?
Yeah, Mas Wahyu, Indonesian election is very complex. Some people said it is the largest election in the world because so many voters. We have more than 200,000 population, about maybe 190 million voters in Indonesia. So many voters. so many electoral districts, candidates, political parties, and we have an open proportional list. So it means that we vote for the candidate, not for we can vote for the political parties, but we also allowed to vote for the candidate. And sometimes because of so many candidates, and then in the election day we get 5 ballot papers. Sometimes the voters is overwhelmed. They who is the candidate I want to be voted. So at least with this kind of initiative, we hope that they can learn about the background of the candidate if we provide the data, in the easily access to the public. And the open data is also important for the people to trust the EMBs, because like I said before, we have initiative, for example, like Kawal Pemilu, when the data is open and then the public is voluntarily give the data to the Kawal Pemilu. So they count the election result and they can compare the result with the EMB's result. When there is a mistake from the KPU, for example, they can report or maybe they can upload it in their social media, so so people can see that the EMB should do better in the counting process. So that's also the importance. It increase the public participation in the election. There is also the importance because we don't want to see that voter participation is only seen based on the number of voter who come to the polling station. I think we should see participation is in the more large kind of participation, the substantive participation. For example, like people can also monitor the election. I think that's.
Thank you, Marinis. I remember a couple of years ago, Perludem also initiated this series of hackathons.
Yes.
You know, the API on election data is really a great initiative. How did that went? Did the hackathon manage to garner a lot of attention and interest from members of the public?
Yeah, in 2014 when we initiative the open data program, we asked the commissioner to have the data about the candidates, about the political party to reformat the data into the open data, and then we our IT specialists and then transform the data into an API. And then when we already have the API, we invite the IT developers, we invite the youth, the young voters that have interested in IT, in developing the data. Then we do the hackathon. So it's like a competition that they have to make an application. They can make in the various format, for example, website, in the smartphone application. They can be creative to it can use as a tools for voter education, voter information, and one of the some of them are making election games. So we can be more fun with the election. And also the application, for example, not only providing the candidate's profile, but also we can check, for example, where is our electoral district. For example, I live in Depok in West Java, so when I open the application, it automatically give notice that I am in the electoral district of Jawa Barat. So that's what we do. And then it is followed by the local EMBs when they have local election. For example, in Surabaya City and in Banten, in Central Java, they also do some kind of initiative. And then I think in the last local election 2020, the local EMBs are already can do it by themselves. For example, they do it by themselves. Not they can run, for example, the hackathon or any other competition by themselves to make the election more interesting and also to engage the young voters to participate in the election.
Thank you, Marinis. So I guess it's like two sides of a coin. At one hand, at one side is getting the data, getting the credible and accurate data from these election bodies and election-related organizations. And on the other side is making sure the members of the public is informed about the existence of this data and then able to use it for the greater benefit of participation. And we will talk about how to engage the public with stories and with data-driven journalism with Peng on the second part of this event. But I would like to ask the final question to Mbak Ninis from Mas Damar Ferry. It's again about getting the data. Have you considered suing the election bodies or open data holder using Freedom of Information Act? Is it an effective approach, considering if you rely on personal access to commissioners that will be changing, depends on who you approach or who sits on the election commission? Marinis?
Yeah, actually that's an option, to about the public information. But because the commissioner works based on the election law, so they just see the election law. They don't see other law, for example, like open information law. So like I said before, when it is not in the election law and it is not an obligation for them to provide the open data, then they feel like it is not our obligation. So that's also the challenges, because sometimes the EMBs also feel like they are the data owner, not the data provider, because when they think that they are the data owner, it like they keep the data, not provide the data to the public. It is not part of their job to provide the data to the public. They just hold the election. So, and also it is important to like Carmela said, that we have to make the culture of the open data not only because Indonesia is also one country that in the open government partnership, and I think the Ministry of Bappenas, they have meeting regularly with the civil society, with the ministry, with the EMBs to enforce it as to make the culture of the it is already open data culture, because we are committed to the open government. So maybe it is still homework for us, not only to promote the free and fair election, but also with the open data we can also have the transparent election.
Yes, and I guess I think the key point that Ninis has been explaining just now is trying to get everyone on board and realize the importance of this open data access for everyone, not just for the public, but for the election participant themselves. If you remember, we have an election result dispute back in 2014, where both presidential camp claimed victories. And without open data access, I think Mbak Ninis briefly talked about this. Without those public data access, we will never know, and we will rely on those claims for weeks before the final result announced. But with the availability of data, Kawal Pemilu was able to do this crowdsourcing initiative using each election booth's result, compare the outcome for each booth, and then tally the votes themselves, and then that give confidence to the public. So, and bring the credibility up a notch. So I guess it's important and to convince and to inform all political parties, candidates, the elites, that having an open and transparent data during election is very, very important. I think we have 3 minutes left. There's one question on the security of Datatalk Asia. I'll give that chance to Santi from PPMN to respond to that.
Yeah, thank you, Blikomang. Actually, we developed this portal data, work together with Satu Dunia. So we also have concern from the digital security. But as you know that the portal data, all of this data that published in data portal, this Datatalk.asia is open data. So the challenge is different with the Indonesia League. So we try the best to make the Datatalk.asia is safe and secure from the cyber crime. Maybe in here, yeah.
Pak Adi around? We have 2 minutes before I hand it over to King.
Hello.
Okay, so maybe we can come back to Mas Adi and to Marietta. Marietta's questions on data security after King, because we have this very important next speaker, and I don't want to keep him waiting any longer. Thank you so much, Mbak Ninis, for that excellent presentation on democracy and open data. So let's move on to our second speaker, Sir Kwang King. Let me just briefly introduce him to you. I'm sure he needs no introduction, but it's my duty to make sure you understand the excellent resume that King has, and his work so far in data-driven journalism. He is now the founder and lead trainer at DataN. He designed training modules and conducted workshops on digital tools, data journalism, and fact-checking. If you talk about data journalism in Southeast Asia, in Asia, King's name will always be in that circle. And he's also the competition officer for Sigma Awards. It's a global international competition that celebrates the best data journalism around the world. King started his career at malaysiakini.com as assistant news editor and reporter. He also involved in several joint investigations with ICIJ, and also one of the key newsroom leaders at Malaysia Kini that helped make Malaysia Kini the nation's most visited news website. Kang graduated from University of Technology Malaysia, but finished his master's degree in journalism at New York University, and also got a scholarship from Graduate School of Journalism at City University of New York. Kang will explain the second part of the coin that I mentioned earlier, how data, open data, can be used in journalism, and how that will, help us create the outcome we all desire, the credibility of election and robust democracy. Over to you, Keng.
All right, thank you so much, Komang. Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me. I think we are a bit behind the schedule, so I will not waste any more time. I'll just straight away jump into my presentation. Let me share my screen now. All right. So today I'm going to talk about the elections and data journalism. All right. So a little bit about my company called Datatalk. We are a company based in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. So we are trying to help newsrooms and journalists to produce more data journalism, especially newsrooms that with limited resources, right? Small and medium-sized newsrooms. So we provide training, advocacy for open data. So I'm also very involved in the open data movement in Malaysia. And also we do collaboration with newsrooms. I'm still out there, crunching data and trying to do investigations, but using a data-driven approach. So these are some of the newsrooms that you see on the screen. These are some of the newsrooms that we collaborate with. All right, today this talk, I have about 30 minutes, I think about 25 minutes now. So I'm just going to give you a very brief introduction, right, on 2 points. One is, why do we use data in election reporting, right? How can data journalism improve our reporting when it comes to elections? And the second is I'm going to share with you, about a dozen of data journalism projects from all over the world on how they use data, to report on elections, right? So hopefully from those examples, we'll be able to get some inspiration and also some ideas about how, we can use data to cover election. All right, so let's jump into the election process. I always like to describe the election. We can divide the election process in 3 different phases, right? The pre-election period, which is, the period that, is like getting married, right? Who you want to vote for. And the second half of you will be, trying to give you a lot of promises, right? To woo your votes, right? To get you to support them, right? And then there is voting and results, right? And this is the period where everybody is very excited, right? Just like, if your wife is pregnant, you want to know whether it's a boy or a girl. So everybody wants to know who is the winner. And after the result is announced, then you will get the post-election period, right? This is also the period where you have to face the reality, right? Who is the winner and what are they going to do for the next, for the next term, right? And this is where, you have the baby and you have to face all the real life issues, right? So these are the 3 different phases in an election. And what can data journalism do, right? So we are going to look at stories using data-driven approach in these 3 different phases, all right? The first one, before election, right, pre-election, right, one of the most important thing I think for media is how we shape the public debate around the election, right? Whether we are focusing on the real issues, the issues that people most concerned about, or we are talking about, gossips, we are talking about whether this guy is a good guy or bad guy, right? But there are ways for us to use data to help our voters to focus on the real issues, right? So what you are seeing on the screen is actually a project done by Google News Initiative with collaboration with newsrooms in Brazil. This is during the 2018 Brazilian presidential election. So what they do is that they look at Google Trends data to see what people were searching, right? When they want to know about the candidates, right? When you use Google to search for a candidate, what kind of issues, right, they are trying to search on Google, right? So this will give the reporters as well as the public a clue on what are the issues that people are most concerned about, okay? And Google Trends data is public, right? All journalists, all the public can access. And actually you can, on this case, the newsrooms actually collaborated with Google Trends together to develop this project. So this is something that we can learn from. The second here, there are 2 stories here in this slide. The one on the left, both are quizzes, right? Quizzes on election. The one on the left is actually a quiz developed by Reader, based in Taiwan, right? They are a news organization called Reader, based in Taiwan. And in this quiz, right, the interesting thing is that the quiz doesn't just ask you some questions so that they based on your answers given, they match you with the election promises or the manifesto of candidates, right? To see that, you know, which candidates actually match your preference more based on your answers, right? The interesting thing here is that they started by asking you, okay, first, without answering any questions, they ask you, who is your preferred candidate? Who would you vote for if the election is today? So you pick the candidate that you like, right? Then only you answer, I think about 9 questions on different policies, right? And after that, after you finish answer the 9 questions, they will tell you that actually based on your answers, right, your preferred candidate is actually this person. So you can see that how different, right? How is it different from your initial perception, right? You might prefer candidate A because, you know, she's a woman, or maybe because you like her personality and things like that. But when it comes to policies, right, based on those 9 questions, right, at the end of it, you will see that, oh, actually you are more aligned with another candidate, maybe, right? So this again help the voters, you know, to aware about, you know, what their preference on different policies and how that match with candidates. It's not just the personal attraction, but also based on policies, right? I think it's a very smart quiz to do that. And the second quiz that you see on the right-hand side of the screen is actually a quiz done by Washington Post for 2020, the presidential election in the US. Again, it asks about 20 questions. I think it's a long quiz. And once you answer those questions, it will tell you, you know, which Democrat candidates actually is your preferred choice, right? Based on your answers, right? This happened when they are doing the primary election, right? Within the Democrat Party, okay? So these are some of the, again, these are quizzes, right? But they are all based on data, right? First, you need to collect all the data about different policies, right? To collect the different stands and views from different candidates on different policies. And from there, you're able to design this kind of quiz to help your voters to first focus on the real issues, but the second is also to know the candidates better, all right? And when it comes to election, right? In a lot of countries, election system is actually quite complicated, okay? For example, in the US, you know, in Malaysia, in Indonesia, you have different electoral system, right? And how do you help the voters to understand all the systems? So data is actually a very powerful tool. So I don't think I can switch between can you see my browser now? Can someone give me some feedback? Can you see my web browser? No, right? I think I can't, I'm stuck with my PowerPoint presentation. It's okay. Later, I will just stop sharing this and we'll go to my web browser, right, to show you this two game, right? Just give me a while. We just skip to the following slide first. In some countries, right, just now we talk about the system, right? How do you explain the system to your voters using data? And another issue that we always face, we always face is that there are too many candidates in an election, right? Especially when you have simultaneous election for, you know, officers at different levels. So how do you help the voters to know the candidates, right? Especially, you know, in Malaysia, for example, we only have about 2 weeks of the campaign period from the nomination to the voting day, right? So in that very short period of time, how can we as media, right, help our voters to understand the candidates so that they can make a better informed choice, right? So here are 2 examples. The first one on the left is actually a website developed in Colombia during the Colombian election. For those who can read Spanish here, I can't, unfortunately. It means, the title means don't throw away your vote, okay? Because in Colombia, right, there are more than thousands of candidates. And many people just decided, I'm not going to vote, right? Because it's too complicated. I don't know who are these people, right? So in this website, again, later I will show you the live website. You can search for candidates, right, to know about their background. But most importantly is that the journalists actually look through all the profile of the candidates, they will be able to tell you whether they have any criminal records, whether they have been investigated for corruption, for example, and how much is their asset, right? Things like that, right? Based on public data. So what they did is they compiled all the information and they built a public database that for voters, you know, to search the database, right? On the left is a project developed by BBC Indonesia for the elections in Indonesia, right? It is about political dynasties, okay? So if you search for different areas, electoral areas in Indonesia, and you search for the candidates, you'll be able to see, you know, whether, you know, they have other family members who are also in the administrations, you know, whether they are the sons or daughters of previous presidents, you know, or governors, you know, things like that, to show that, you know, how these candidates, they have the advantage because they are they have this family support, and, you know, they are in a political family, okay? The same project was also done by Taiwan, a Taiwanese website called Reader, this one on your right-hand side. So in Taiwan, you'll see that cronyism as well as these kind of political dynasties are also everywhere, okay? So you will see that this chart, right, you'll see that the blue color, the circle, means how many times this candidate, you know, has been elected, right? If there's one circle, which means one time. But if you look at the orange color circles, right, that means how many times the direct family of this candidate has been elected, right? So you can see that the first candidate, right, although he was only elected for one time, but he has family members that were elected more than 10 times, right? And this is, the orange color means direct family members. The red color means extended family members, like the cousins, the parents-in-laws, and things like that, okay? They actually compiled the data by looking at records starting from 1940s, okay? They collect all the records and have to verify themselves, because we know that, you know, family and this kind of kinship, you know, is very hard to verify, right? When they don't share the same last name, or they don't have the same family names, right? You need to verify it, right? Yeah, this is what the database they have built. On the left is a very interesting project that I like a lot. It is developed by Reuters, the Reuters graphics teams in Singapore. It is about India elections, right? I don't think I want to explain here. Later, I'll show you the website, right? It's very interesting. Okay, just now we talked about helping the voters to understand the electoral system as well as the candidates, right? So another very important issue is, of course, political financing, right? Where do the candidates get their political funding, right? And there are different ways we can use data to help to raise the transparency on this issue, right? So here are 3 examples that I want to share with you. The first one on the left is actually a game developed by the, I think, United Daily in Taiwan, okay? You can play the game as a candidate, all right? And you can decide how much money you want to spend to buy, for example, advertisement board, to buy, to give out free masks, face masks, to give out other freebies, you know, and you total up them together and you see how much you have spent. And then they will use that number to compare against the real expenses by candidates, right? So through a game, you're able to learn that, oh, to win an election, you actually have to spend a lot. And the next question is, of course, so where do they get the money, right? And that's become interesting. The second story also developed in Taiwan, right? Because Taiwan just had their elections not long ago. So there are a lot of good examples from that country. The second, the one in the middle, is actually a crowdsourced project, right? They asked voters or the public, right, to snap photos of advertisement signboard, the huge one, the giant signboard, and send to them, right? So they are able to collect all these different signboards, you know, around the cities, around the nations, and from there they are able to calculate, you know, to estimate how much money you actually spend, right, to put up all these different signboards. Okay, it's very interesting. Then they built this database for you to search them. The third one is a recent news game developed by Malaysia Kini. I think it was 2 or 3 weeks ago, right? This is not specifically on election, but it kind of explains to you how much money you can spend, how much allocation you can get from the governments, if you are a government's MPs, MPs means parliamentarian in Malaysia, and and you will play the game, and when the voters will come to ask you for money, whether you want to spend that money, when there is a disaster in your area, do you want to spend the money to build a relief center for them, or you want to give out the money and things like that, right? So again, it is a way to let voters understand that actually how much money each representative can get from the government, and what are some of the considerations when they're spending those money, okay? Right, the other two projects, right, that I also like a lot, the one on the left is actually developed by a organization in the US called Trace. What they did is that they are tracking the political donation by NRA, right? NRA is the National Rifle Associations, which is, advocating for the rights to have guns, in the US. And we know that gun violence is a huge issue in the US. It is also a very, it is also the flashpoint between different parties, different candidates. So what they did is that, because for a fact, we know that NRA, this National Rifle Associations, have been donating to candidates, to lobby the candidates to pass laws or not to pass laws, that favor them, right? But they want to sell guns to the public, so the laws have to be friendly to them, and they give a lot of money to their candidates. And in the US, all the political donation above a certain limit, you have to declare it, right, to the election commissions. So what happened is that this project, they actually started a Twitter account. Whenever NRA give a political donation to any candidate, the Twitter account will tweet about it automatically. So it's a Twitter bot, okay? So when NRA give a donation, then there will be a tweet. When you give a second donation, there will be a second tweet, okay? And they also built a database for you to explore who are the recipients and how much money given every time, right? I think it's very creative and also very engaging, right? So you keep the public engaged and informed all the time, right? The one on the right-hand side is another project done by icenewssource.org. Again, this is in the US. However, this is not a national project like what is usually done by Washington Post or New York Times. This one is actually a local election, the San Diego County, right? County is very small, right? In Malaysia, we call it daerah, a district, okay? And what happens is that in that county, right, if you want to get the data about political donations, right, it's very hard, the campaign finance records, right? It is not very friendly. So what they do is that they scrape all the data and they build a public database for the voters to search. But of course, based on the data, they also did other stories, right? But here, this screenshots only shows you the database, okay? So these are some of the ideas, I think that we can use data to better inform our voters and to get them engaged with the political process, okay? So now from pre-election period, now we are coming to on voting day, right? So besides from the live reporting of electoral results and things like that, what else can we do, okay? Here, I'm not going to show you any examples about how do you present results. I think everybody's expert on that, right? Here, I'm going to show you that what else you can do besides from chasing for the result, besides to become the first in announcing who are the winners, right? What else you can do? So this is a project called Election Land in the US. This is the second time. The first time it was done, it was in 2016 presidential election. And then 2020, they repeated again, right? So what happened is that they got together over 1,000 journalists, okay, 1,000 journalists from different newsrooms. There are national newsrooms, there are also local newsrooms to work together. They also work together with Google as well as other technology platforms. So what they do is that they want to track what are the issues, what are the challenges that voters face when they want to cast their vote on polling day, okay? And they use they use both conventional and more technical approaches to do that, right? The conventional is that they have hotlines, they have numbers, right? Not just for the national newspapers, but all the local publishers, local newsrooms that join this project, right, they will give their own local hotlines and WhatsApp number, for their local residents to report to them if they encounter any issues, right? For example, long queue. For example, that they could not find their names, on the record, so they couldn't vote, right? Those kind of issues, right? On the other side, the technical part is that they actually work with Google, and Google use the Google Trends data. For example, what are people searching online to fit them, for example, all these small dots that you see on the maps, right? If you browse over each dot, the dot will actually tells you that, there is an increase of searches. For example, this one in Lake Montezuma, Arizona, right? You can see that it says that, people are searching for riot, right? So this will give an alert, okay, what is happening there? And then they can inform their local partners, the local newsrooms based in that location to check out, what is happening, right? So you're using internet data, you're using Google data to help you to know what are the issues happening on that day. Why are they doing that? Because using this, right, they are able to address some issues on the same day, right? For example, in the morning, if there was a problem about long queue in a certain county, right? And if you report about it, right, the administration would have to act faster to address that issue, right? So the whole process is actually to not just record what is happening on that day, but also help to address some of the issues faced by voters, okay? So this is not just on election results, right? So I think this dashboard is just one part of the whole project. The whole project actually involved, different local newsrooms reporting on their local incidents based on the data given by Election Land, given by this project. It's a huge data project. They compile data from different sources and they share with all the partner newsrooms in this project so that they can act immediately on any incidents on that day, right? Another thing that we can do during the voting, of course, this is actually before the voting day, is to do fact check, right? To fact check the claims made by candidates. I think our Indonesian friends have been doing a great job. In 2019, they have this live fact checking collaboration, huge collaboration, with dozens of newsrooms to fact check the presidential debate, live debate, right? And it might sound sexy, right, doing live fact check, right? But actually, the traditional fact check is actually good enough, right? If you look at the screenshot on the left, this is actually a newspaper in Kenya. It is called The Nation. They have a project called Newsplex. It's their data desk. And they use data to fact check the different claims and different promises made by their candidates, right? So you can see that, they have this small meter that will tell you whether it's unproven or true or false. All right. So again, this requires data claims. We need to counter check with the data. Okay. Right now, election is finished. So now it's post-election, right? So I know that some of the things that we like to do is actually post-election analysis. Okay. To look at the voting trends, right? So not just the voting results or which party has improved their result, which party did badly and things like that. But it will be interesting if you can compare the electoral results with demographics data, right? So for example, here, this is a story by Bloomberg, right? A very simple story. They only make 5 maps and they want to show how the current French president, Macron, how he beat the far right candidate, Le Pen, okay? So they look at, they compare the electoral results with unemployment as well as education degrees, right? And it shows you a very clear trend that, in areas where unemployment rate are higher, okay, they tend to vote for Le Pen, right, the far right candidate. In areas where there are more candidates with higher education level, they tend to support Macron, okay? Another interesting project that I like, this is by El Pais. It is a news organizations based in Spain, and this is about the Spanish election, right? So if you have access to data, right, very granular data about let's say each block in the district, how they vote, right? Actually, an interactive map is actually a very good idea. So this map, right, it allows you to go to a street by street level, right, to know how people voted, just like in your neighborhood. or the next blocks to the next blocks from where you live and things like that. So it sort of personalized the elections for you, right? And the same approach also done by some Taiwanese organization to look at which area, right, which district has a totally different voting behavior compared to the other areas surrounding it.
Dan kamu juga bisa membandingkan daerah tempat kamu tinggal dengan daerah sekitarnya juga. Kamu bisa lihat orang-orang yang memilih di luar kecenderungan dukungan politik yang ada di wilayah tertentu juga.
So very popular because people actually like to check out, how their neighborhood has voted, or how their hometown has voted and things like that. Okay. Right. Election is finished, but our job is not yet done, right? So the last thing that we can do is actually not the last thing, sorry. The continuous thing that we can do is actually to track the election promises, right? So here are two projects. On the left is one developed by Malaysia Kini, right, to monitor, because the winning parties, the winning political coalitions in our 2018 election promised that they are going to do 10 things in 100 days, right? So tracking them is a very important task for the media. On the right-hand side, you can see that this is by Polity based in the US. They already started the Biden Promise Tracker scorecard on the first day when the new president was sworn in, right? They already started, right? Trump is the old story, right? They are now tracking the promises by the new president. And this project will be ongoing for the next 4 years, right? Until the end of his term. So I think democracy is not just about election. Democracy is a long-term process. So I think we as the media, it's our responsibility to make sure that we keep the politicians in check. And so these are some of the projects that we can do, okay? Let me just stop for the slides and I'll just switch to web view for a while. Okay, I can finish it in 5 minutes, no problem. Just give me a minute. Yeah, just to show you some of the projects that just now I mentioned, right? This is the first one by 538 to explain the complex issue of redistricting in the US, right? We call it gerrymandering, right? It's how you draw the boundary of the constituencies, okay? They actually try to explain it by telling people that how you draw the boundary will affect the results, right? So this is the current boundary, right? You can change the option. If you want the Republicans to win big in election, you can redraw the districts so that the Republicans will get will win most of the constituencies, right? If you want to favor Democrats, this is how you can redraw, right? The boundaries of the different seats, right? And there are some other options, right? I think this is a very powerful way to make people realize that, oh, so it's not a fair game at all, right? It depends on who is given the power to draw the boundaries. And based on the way you draw the boundaries, you can decide which party win in an area, okay? The second game that just now I mentioned to explain issues about electoral process is one game that I developed together with Malaysia Kini. This was before the last election. So how powerful is your vote, right? I'll just show you how can you do this. You have to pick where you are voting. So for example, I vote in my hometown called Batu Pahat, and you pick an opponent. These are all real politicians in Malaysia, all right? So I'll just pick this guy. So you're going to fight with this guy. And you win or you lose depends on your constituency, right? The area that you vote. So how did I lose? Right, because my component, he's the MP for Putrajaya, which is the administrative capital of Malaysia. And in Putrajaya, you only have 18,000 voters, right? But you elect one MP, one member of parliament. And the constituency where I was voting is Batu Pahat. We have 90,000 voters, right? It's 5 times more voters than Putrajaya. However, in Batu Pahat, you also get to elect only one member of parliament. So which means that my vote, the vote for each voter in Batu Pahat is not as powerful as the vote in Putrajaya, right? Because 18,000 of voters there can elect one member of parliament. But here we have 90,000 of voters. We also elect one member of parliament. This is not fair, right? It's not one person, one vote. But how are we going to explain these issues, to young voters and also to first-time voters? That's why we designed this game to help them understand, right, this issue, right? And if you click on here, and they will have an explainer, also an interactive explainer on how the electoral system works in Malaysia, right? This is the game that I mentioned, Spend Like an MP. It's about political spending, okay? So I just demo to you, you start it. And you can choose between two parties. One is durian, one is manggis. Okay, the durian and, okay, let's say I want to do manggis party, which is the opposition, right? And then you continue, okay, right? And you have this money here, and you have to maintain your popularity, all right? Okay, and now they will have like different scenarios, so that you will have to spend your money, how many assistants you want to hire, for example, right? You pay their car loans, house mortgage, things like that. Yeah, and somebody came to your service center asking for help. Are you going to give them money and things like that, right? So the other project that just now I mentioned is Don't Throw Away Your Vote. This is a project by Data Sketch based in Colombia. So besides from here, you can search for the candidate. If you, I'm going to translate to English so that everybody can read. Right. So they also compile a list of candidates that tell you, for example, who has been in the Congress the longest, who are the most questions. Here is basically you don't have investigations or criminal records, right? So if you click on them, and they will, the heritage means the assets, right? This is the translation is a bit off. It actually means assets, the properties, the wealth of congressmen. Okay. All right. So this is the kind of database I think we can do to help our voters to understand their candidates more, right? And I mentioned I like this project a lot, right? This is a project about India elections. And you know that India is the biggest democracy in the world. They have this huge election with thousands of candidates. So if you scroll this page, right, it's very interesting. They put all the different photos of the candidates here, okay? And you scroll it. This is all the candidates contesting in the Indian general election. So far, we have scrolled through 2,000 candidates, right? Yes, it is that many candidates, right? The one seat has 185 candidates in one seat, right? You can see that there's a black line here to tell you these are all the candidates in one seat. And if you scroll through 5,000 now, right? And there are also candidates who can run for 2 different seats, okay? And now, after you scroll through 7,000 candidates, now only you get a female candidate, okay? Only about 9% of the total candidates are female. So you can see there's a great gender inequality in the candidates. And also there are third gender candidates, okay? So you'll see that criminal charge, these are the candidates with criminal charge and which party they are from, right? The interesting project here is actually, the interesting thing about this project is actually they use the faces, right, of the candidates. And where do they get the faces? Of course, this is public data. When you submit your nomination paper, when you want to run, you have to submit your photos, and the government, the election commissions make the photos public, all right? So this is, check out this project, it's interesting. And this is the Biden promise tracker. You can see everything is 0 because he just started. Yeah, so you will see that all the different, they compile all the different promises made by him, and they're going to track it for the next 4 years. All right. So guys, that's all my presentation. Before I go to my last slide and share with you my, you can download this presentation. I forgot to mention that. Let me just go, hold on. Oh, sorry. Right, some lessons that we learned from those projects, right? The first thing is journalism first, graphics later, okay? A lot of people are very obsessed with graphics, like good presentation. Here, when we are talking about election reporting, I think journalism is the most important one. How we can use journalism to inform the voters so that they can make better decisions, and how we can use our journalistic skills and approaches to keep our politicians in check, right? And the other thing I want to mention about Datatalk Asia is that, it's a good initiative because we are sharing data, right? But however, I hope that in the future, there will be plans to go beyond just data sharing, right? Because for election data, if I'm a journalist based in Malaysia, I don't actually need data from Philippines or Indonesia, right? Because the data is very different. The electoral system is also very different, right? But I think what can benefit more journalists here is actually if we can share our methodologies, how we report on an issue, how we build something, right? Or the reporting recipe, right? Step-by-step recipe, right? How we get the data, how we analyze the data, and how we build something, and what are the lessons that we learn, what are the best practices, right? I think this one is the next step that Datatalk.Asia can look at, right? And also that, remember that, the collaboration shouldn't be just among journalists. We should also collaborate with civil society, tech platforms, and also academics, in serving our audiences, right? And there's a new trend that is coming out, is actually crowdsourced information, because elections is something that involve all the voters, all the citizens, and it would be nice if you can engage them in the process, right, by getting information from. But of course, that is how do you do good crowdsourcing? That is a totally another issue. All right. The last thing that I want to remind everyone is that just now Koma mentioned that I'm actually the competition officer for Sigma Awards. So just to share with you that this is an international competition for data journalism, and the deadline is 1st of February. You have another 4 days. If you have published any data projects in the year 2020, I encourage you to apply to submit your project for these awards. There's no application fee. Everything is free. You just have to fill out an online forms, and not just, winning an award, not just simple, but we use this award as an opportunity to collect all the different data projects published all over the world. We want to build a database of all data journalism projects, and we were going to share the database with all data journalists, with all journalists and newsrooms in the whole world. So if you want your projects to be able to be included in the data projects, right, please submit your projects to us. All right. And
Okay.
I thank you very much. So let me just go back to the link that you can download the deck. Yeah. I will also type and put the link in the, should I put it in the Q&A or the chat so that everybody can see it? The chat, right?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, King. As always, very insightful and inspirational talk. A lot of real examples and a lot of things that we can replicate and we can do actually in our respective countries. Thank you for that, King. And I guess one of the things that strikes me from King's presentation was how part of the projects that he presented are using crowdsourced data, public data, not necessarily, election commission related data. Some of it, of course, needs that data. But as we discussed in the previous session, if we, found difficulties or, problem of accessing those election commission related data, there is always other things that you can do. And King has explained and give examples of how you can utilize that, how you can involve the public and also still do a very important and insightful data project, even though you don't have access probably to election related data owned or held by government. So we still have probably 20 minutes for Q&A. I already have a couple of questions. One from a Facebook user that monitor our discussion on that platform. And I think his question is typical to any newsroom or journalist having heard your presentation, King. And his question or her question, I don't know the name and gender of this attendee, ask how many resources you need to do this kind of project, how many journalists involved. So maybe you can elaborate on the resources required in the newsroom. I'm sure it depends on the complexity and the scale, but I think you can brief them on this particular issue.
So just to keep it short, right? On how much resources, how many manpower you need, right? If you are talking about it, as mentioned by Komang, right? It depends on the scale of the project and the nature of the project, and whether you already have data for the project. For example, if you want to do fact checking, right? One person is enough. If you know where to find the data, to use the data to fact check the claims by a candidate, right? Then one in journalist is enough, right? But if you want to build a database, then of course you need a team of journalists, developers, sometimes some data engineers, right? If the journalist doesn't have any data skill, so you need build a database, right? And I know that many newsrooms in this region, they don't have that kind of resources. And we know that media business is not doing very good now, right? It's actually at, some of them are actually at their worst period right now. So that's why it makes it very important for you to reach out to people who already have the technical skills to build it, right? So that is why I stress about collaboration, okay? There are many technical people out there who want to contribute to building democracy in your country. If you just ask around that, okay, I need, especially when election is coming, you're trying to mobilize people to do something for the elections, I think it would be easier for you to find people with those skills that you don't have it in your team or in your newsroom, right? So I think collaboration is the way to move forward. It is not you trying to invent your wheel every time. When you want to do something new, you want to hire somebody for a project. That is not very practical. So I would encourage you to work with different organizations in your country. Find out who these organizations are. Some are civil hackers. Some are academics, right? Some are just freelance, programmers, developers, designers out there, who are willing to help. And probably some of them already have experience building this kind of applications, okay? And the more you do this kind of collaboration, you're also building a community, right? A community that can always come together and try to solve problems, public issues and things like that, right? So that's my advice. Thank you.
Thank you, King. You also mentioned, I think, a very important message at the end of your presentation that Datatalks.Asia should not stop at just data sharing, but also, consider sharing methodologies, sharing reporting recipe, and, move not only from, uploading and publishing the data, but also working together on projects. As the competition officer for Sigma Award, can you maybe give us an example of a region that have embarked on that direction, and give some example maybe in Latin America or other parts of the world where you see this ecosystem has formed and produced interesting projects?
So if you look at the US, right, I think the US is always, their newsrooms and their journalists are very open for collaboration. So some of the best collaboration you will get is actually from US. You can see US as multiple countries, right? Because each state has their own election. They have their own election laws. They have their own election regulations. Although they all vote for the same presidents, but when it comes to their governors, their local representative, right, they actually have very different laws, right? So what happened is that, and the federal government doesn't regulate all the electoral process in different states, right? So data A might be available in state A, but not available in state B, right? So if you look at US, there are actually, just now I mentioned one project is called Election Land, right? The other project is actually called Big Local News. I think it is done by the Stanford University. Big Local News means that they actually prepare a team of people to prepare data, right? To prepare data set so the data set is ready, and they will teach or they will guide the local newsroom how to use that data set for your local reporting, right? And they will publish a set of reporting recipe, right? For like, how do you access this data? If you want to produce this story, how do you access this data? They even have like screenshot, right? You click this button, you download this, you open up a spreadsheet, you do this analysis, and you see the results. And based on the results, here are some of the stories that you can pursue, okay? So you don't expect all the newsrooms, you know, after doing training for so many years, right? I realized that we can't expect all journalists to be very data literate, right? It means that you are very good in data skills. I don't think most journalists have the time to master this skill. And it requires a lot of commitment and time to master all these skills, right? So, but data is important, right? So how we can help them with data reporting is if we can give them step-by-step instructions as well as a data set. For example, if in Indonesia, you already have data, you know, of candidates of election results, then you can then develop a reporting recipe, right? Okay, if you follow the 10 steps here, you are going to who, you know, which, for example, which candidate, you know, has amassed a lot of wealth in the past 4 years in office, you know, things like that. Okay, but they don't have to like learn about. They don't have to learn about how do you scrape data, how do you build database. Right? They just have to follow the steps, download the tools that they need, and they follow the steps, and they are able to produce story. I think Datatalk Agent now you have this tool to access data, also do visualizations, right? But that doesn't solve the other part of the question. The other part of the question is that, okay, I know how to get data. I know how to do visualizations. I can embed it on my website, but how do I produce stories from the data and the visualization, right? So can you give me some examples? And how can I do that for my local district, for my local council, right? Using that data. So I think that would be the next step. I think building up the data infrastructure is good, right? And a lot of regions have done that. But the next step is actually getting people to use it. And how do you make the process a frictionless process, a smooth process that every journalist can pick up, right? And sorry, just now to answer your question, there's another example is in, I think it's in Latin America. All right, again, it's in Spanish, so I don't remember what's the name, but basically what they do is the same thing. They prepare the data. Sorry, that's another example. If you go and find Internews, they actually publish a data reporting recipe for journalists in Africa in reporting about COVID-19 in their different countries. So it's a very detailed step-by-step data reporting. I can try to find a link and share in the chat room.
Yeah, I think Ratna has found it. Is that the one?
Yeah, that's right. Thank you, Rana. That's the data recipe. Yeah, it's developed by Eva Constantas, who is a data expert at Internews. Yep, that's the one. Correct. So that is some of the samples that we can look at. Yep.
Great. Thank you so much for that. I think it gave some idea, I'm sure, for PPMN, SINAR, and PCIJ, the one that initiate Datatalk Asia to formulate the next step after this launch. There's one question on the chat box from Agus Rahmat from Aceh. And I think his question is, more about the impact of these data projects. How do we assess the impact? Because he asked about, can we evaluate the political finance situation after having these data projects published? How do we see voters' participation? How do we know that voters base their votes on personality or just because of ideological affiliation? Those kind of things. It's I think related to how do we, related to the question, how do we assess the impact of these data projects? And do you have an example how all of these wonderful examples can, trigger change on election and policies on election?
Memicu perubahan yang signifikan dalam proses pemilu itu sendiri. Nah, ini juga pertanyaan yang seringkali diajukan.
Because first, it depends on what you are trying to achieve with your projects. And the second thing is that whether those impacts are measurable or not, right? Which means that do you have like some numbers that you can look at to know whether the numbers have increased or decreased, before and after you publish a project, right? So usually what I advise newsrooms is that, before that, of course, set your, you have the internal KPI or the internal targets, you can achieve that targets by, if you are developing a news game, right? You want to look at how many people have played the game, right? If you want to know the impacts in a more tangible way, you can actually do questionnaires or interview or focus groups with your readers, right? You can, so I have this idea of, you can add a button saying that, okay, you play this game and what have you learned in this game? Can you tell us more? Okay. Or would you like to, engage in a discussion with us to tell you about the experience of you playing this game? You are not able to survey everyone who played the game, but by picking a small samples, it might help you to understand the impacts more, right? Or you can even do a focus group before you publish the game. So you can soft launch the game first, push it out to 100 people, and then do a focus group, and ask them, or just send them a questionnaire, ask them, what do you think about this game? What have you learned from there, right? So from there, it gives you a sense of how effective the approach is, how effective the application is, right? And of course, the metrics that we all know how we can measure is, look at the page views, the time span, all those things. I don't have to mention that. I think every newsroom is now measuring all those analytics, right? But again, another impacts that you want to look at is simply, right, if you are doing a crowdsourced project, right, is simply look at the results, right? If there are 100,000 people, who send you information about, the things that you want to investigate, and that meets your target, right? You are able to build a database using those information. That is a success, right? So again, it depends on what you're trying to achieve, and one way of measuring that is to get a small sample of respondents and then trying to measure your success from there. For long-term success, for example, are you able to, for example, change the result of an election? I don't think you'll be able to measure that. Are you able to change people's attitudes against elections? Again, there are so many factors at play, and you are not the only one who is publishing something online. So you are not sure who actually are more influential and who actually, So sometimes changes are the results of multiple factors, something that is very hard to measure. Even if you ask the social scientists, I don't think they have a good way to measure. A lot of things we can actually learn from social science on how they measure, policies, impacts, and things like that. So I think data journalism is not just using data to produce report, to investigate something, but it's also how do you use a very scientific-based methods in measuring your own success and impacts. So what I mentioned just now, like focus group, getting a small sample respondents, those are all methodologies done by social science for a long time, right? So there are actually a lot of things that we can learn from them. Yeah. So I guess that's my answer. I don't think it's a good answer, but something to think about. Thank you.
It is a good answer. Don't worry. Thank you so much for that. And I think that concludes our second session with Kang. A big applause for our colleague from Datatalk Malaysia, and a lot of insights, a lot of great recommendation to move forward. Almost 2 hours has passed since I took over from Ratna as the moderator. I just want to add one more point from Mr. Adi Sumaryadi from Satu Dunia Foundation. He asked me to convey this answer to Marieta's questions on the last part of the first session on the data security of Datatalk.Asia. So Satu Dunia Foundation is an organization that helped build the back end for this site. And Mas Adi, explained that the Datatalk has in place a system for the application and for the data. They have a backup data that is continuously protect the credibility of the data uploaded on that site. And Satu Dunia will always expand and making sure that the security holes that probably come up from time to time is covered and keep the data security of the site. So any suggestion is welcome, and you can talk to PPMN, Marieta, or any other who have concerns about that particular issue. So I guess that's all the time that we have. Thank you so much for Mbak Ninis from Perludem for that very excellent speech on the first part, and King on the data journalism relevance to election and democracy. And I think we have very insightful and a lot of ideas coming from these two speakers. Thank you so much for your time and energy that you bring forward to this discussion. Last but not least, I would like to send my warmest regards to Anggraini from Perludem. There was initially slot to give the speech. She's recovering from a PCR test. Hopefully her health will improve soon. Thank you so much for all the panelists. I hand it over back to Ratna. Thank you. Selamat siang.
Thank you, Mas Komang. Thank you, all the speakers. I'll be very busy wandering around the sites that Kang showed to us. And also Mbak Ninis, thank you so much. Very insightful presentation. After this, we will have a photo session. So I would like to invite every panelist to have their videos on. I do wish we are in the same room, but yeah, this is the best that we can do, at least until now. So Mariette Adlina, who want to take a screenshot?
Okay.
Okay.
1, 2, 3. One again. 2, 3. Okay.
Okay, cool. Thank you, Adlina. Okay. I tend to speak fast, and I am the opposite of Komang, where he is so calm. That's why we collaborate with each other, because Komang always know how to handle situation. I'm the one who always panic. So I'm trying to slowing down now as we approaching the end of our gathering. But I will cite slips of the tongue are almost inevitable. For every 1,000 words spoken, we make 1 or 2 errors. So yeah, I cited this for an excuse for sure. Okay, like I promised earlier, I will announce the Excel Award and also data journalism training. But make sure all the participants download the link that Sam gave to us, because there are so many websites and all, you can check the projects. By the way, I play one from Malaysia Kini and I failed. I was the horrible MP because I spent money more than I have. Okay, so don't forget also for all the participants to fill out the evaluation form. We will send the form to your email, and then don't forget to send back to us so that we can know your inputs. So every 2 years, PPMN and the Respect Program held an Excel Award. This is an award for the best election reporting in Southeast Asia. In 2019, so it was like 2 years ago, yeah. There were 4 categories which were breaking news, investigative story, in-depth story, and commentary with various platforms, which was text, and also video, audio, and multimedia. We got more than 100 entries and submitted by 35 journalists from 4 countries. The winner for the best investigation story is PCIJ from the Philippines. And the winner for the best in-depth reporting is Tempo Daily from Indonesia. Each winner won $1,000 US. So make sure that you can compete with both of them for Excel Award this year, 2021. We will add one more category, which is data-driven story. So the competition will be open in June 2021, and all of journalists in Southeast Asia could submit their best journalistic works on election issues that they made from September 2019 up to July 2021. I haven't got the information about the prize, but probably, Mbak Santi, do you want to give the hint? Is it more or is it less?
I hope more.
Oh, wow. So I have more.
Or at least same.
Oh, okay. Okay, so at least the same. So every winner will get at least $1,000 US if it's the same, yeah? And for the training, in April this year, PPMN with their partners in Malaysia and Philippines will have a data-driven journalism training for journalists. This will be an opportunity for journalists in 3 countries to participate and implement their data-driven journalism skill on their journalistic works. And these works can be submitted to Excel Award. So you go to training first, and then you can submit to the awards, yeah? So it's basically